Good evening, everyone. Are we up and running? Yep, I can hear everyone, so, sorry, it's all new to me yet. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the regular meeting of the Village of Wheeling for April 20th, 2020. Please rise for the pledge. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Would everyone please remain standing for just a moment? I'd like a moment of silence for Wheeling resident Zach Leviton. Thank you. Clerk Simpson, roll call. Clerk Simpson, roll call, please.
Trustee Lang?
Here.
Trustee Vito?
Here.
Trustee Vogel?
Here.
Trustee Kruger?
Present.
Trustee Papantos?
Present.
Trustee Rafato?
Here.
President Horker?
Here. You have before you the minutes of the regular meeting of April 6th, 2020. I need a motion for their approval.
So moved.
Motion, Mary Kruger. Trustee Kruger?
Papantos.
Sorry, Mary Papantos. Second.
Second.
Trustee Rafato. Roll call, please.
Trustee Lang?
Yes.
Trustee Vito?
Yes.
Trustee Vogel?
Yes.
Trustee Kruger?
Yes.
Trustee Papantos?
Yes.
Trustee Rafato?
Yes.
President Horker?
Yes. Are there any changes to the agenda?
There are no changes this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Spondilis. Proclamations. Simpson.
National Volunteer Week, April 19th through the 25th of 2020. The Village of Wheeling is proud of the volunteers who not only serve the community with pride and commitment, but also help to make sure that the community is a great place to live, work, and raise a family. The entire community can inspire, equip, and mobilize people to take action that changes the world. Volunteers can connect with local community service opportunities through hundreds of community service organizations. Individuals and communities are at the center of social change, discovering their power to make a difference. During this week, all over the nation, service projects will be performed with volunteers recognized for their commitment to service. The giving of oneself in service to another empowers both the giver and the recipient. Experience teaches us that government by itself cannot solve all of our nation's social problems. Our country's volunteer force of over 63 million is a great treasure. Volunteers are vital to our future as a caring and productive community and nation. President of the Village of Wheeling, Patrick Horker, hereby proclaim April 19th through the 25th, 2020 as National Volunteer Week in Wheeling and urges fellow citizens to volunteer in their respective communities, since by volunteering and recognizing those who serve, we can come together to make a difference.
Thank you, Clerk Simpson. Appointments and confirmations. Is Mr. Palicki?
He doesn't need to be.
Okay. Clerk Simpson. Well, there's really... Oh,
Just a motion to appoint?
I need a motion to appoint, to reappoint Al Palicki to the Board of Fire and Police Commissioners.
So moved.
I'm going to give the motion to Trustee Vito and the second to Trustee Vogel. Sorry, we're going to get through this. Roll call, please.
Trustee Lang?
Yes.
Trustee Vito?
Yes.
Trustee Vogel?
Yes.
Trustee Kruger?
Yes.
Trustee Papantos?
Yes.
Trustee Rafato?
Yes.
President Horker?
Yes. Citizens' concerns and comments. Clerk Simpson.
Member of the public may address the board with comments regarding issues relevant to village business. No citizen shall speak for more than 5 minutes without consent of the board. Members of the general public who wish to address the board must sign the request to speak form prior to the commencement of the public meeting.
Just as a reminder, this is a time for citizens to express their concerns and comments about the village and the board to listen. Neither the board nor the staff will be answering questions. And just to be clear, we did circulate the sign-up sheet out front. We are doing our best for social distancing. Clerk Simpson?
Okay, Mr. Neff,
Please.
speak.
We'll figure it out.
Test. Everyone can hear me?
You're good.
Yes.
Good evening. I felt compelled to come out in the middle of a pandemic to raise concerns regarding the agenda item, budget approval for Chicago Executive Airport. The Village of Wheeling co-owns the airport with the City of Prospect Heights. Oversight is with this board. I want to bring to your attention the public relations contract that was awarded to Cody Rogers of Insight PR last May. This raised eyebrows from a group of regular airport board meeting attendees. Cody Rogers has no visible aviation experience and very limited public relations experience. When introduced to the airport board, he stated that the airport was his first aviation client. Through the Freedom of Information request, we looked at the applicants for the position. Cody Rogers has a business interest with the airport chairman of the board, Court Harris. The company they formed together, Southgate Strategies, LLC, organized on October 15, 2018. Their website shows they are an ongoing concern. Insight PR was organized March 21st, 2019, just days before the application deadline to the airport on April 1st. That was for the, public relations request for qualifications or. So my question is it ethical to promote your business partner to the airport on which you are chairman? Another applicant, Veronica Vera, that applied for the position, looked to have an impressive resume with 12 years of public relations experience, a former director of communications for the state of Illinois, and an Air Force veteran. She bid the contract $6,000 per year under the Insight bid. I'm happy to share the contents of the FOIA if anybody would like to take a look at the applicants' backgrounds. It should also be noted that Mr. Rogers and Chairman Harris are both West Point graduates. It would appear that there was undue favoritism towards Mr. Rogers. The lack of transparency and concealment seems to contradict the intent of the West Point Honor Code. A cadet shall not lie, cheat, or steal, nor tolerate those that do. The public relations consultant should play a role in the airport's intergovernmental agreement, goals and objectives, which says, develop and implement public relations activities through which residents and community organizations can express their concerns. So far, Insight PR has been conspicuously absent in helping the airport achieve this goal. Are contracts for the airport supposed to be won by those with the best connections to insiders or the most qualified lowest bidders? Insight PR is in the budget for automatic renewal. Thank you for your attention on this matter.
Thank you, Mr. Neff.
You bet. Stay safe, everyone.
You too, be careful. Thank you for coming out.
That's the only one.
Oh. No staff reports, consent agenda. Clerk Simpson.
A consent agenda. All items listed on the consent agenda are considered to be routine by the village board and will be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a board member or citizen so requests, in which event the item will be removed from the general order of business and considered after all other agenda items. 11A, resolution approving changes to the village investment policy. 11B, ordinance reserving volume cap in connection with private activity bond issues and related matters. 11C, resolution authorizing acceptance of the Northwest Municipal Conference Suburban Purchasing Cooperative previously bid contract with Cal One Incorporated related to professional telecommunication services in the amount of $78,929.12. 11D, resolution authorizing acceptance of the State of Illinois previously bid contract with CDW Government LLC for a one-year renewal of Microsoft Office 365 software licenses in the amount of $38,394. Item 11E, resolution accepting a public bid and approving a contract with Duke's Root Control Incorporated for the 2020 sanitary sewer root control program in the amount of $87,968.11. Item 11F, resolution accepting a proposal from Sustainable Systems LLC for engineering services to update the village's risk and resilience assessment and emergency response plan in the amount of $40,000.
Does anyone have any concerns or comments about the consent agenda? If there are no concerns or comments, I'd be looking for a motion for approval.
So moved.
Motion, Trustee Rufato.
Second.
Second, trustee Kruger. Roll call, please.
Trustee Lang,
Yes.
trustee Vito,
Yes.
trustee Vogel. Trustee Vogel,
I saw his lips move yes. There you go.
Yes.
okay, trustee Kruger,
Yes.
trustee Papantos,
Yes.
trustee Rafato,
Yes.
President Horker.
Yes. New business, Clerk Simpson.
13A, resolution approving the fiscal year 2021 budget for Chicago Executive Airport.
Mr. Griffith and Mr. Abbott.
Yes, sir, Mr. President. Thank
I'll
you
live
for
with
having
Mr.
us.
Take it away.
Yes, sir. President Horker, trustees, thank you for having us tonight on the agenda. We have a short presentation for you tonight, just kind of hitting the highlights of the budget, and then we'll take any questions that you may have at the end. So, next slide, please. I'm sorry.
There you go. Luca heard you. It's okay. It's okay.
Thank you, Luca. I'll just be hitting some highlights, and I'm going to turn it over to the finance director, Jason, to kind of hit kind of the technical aspects of the budget, since he's kind of the expert on that, and he's done a great job again this year with creating the budget. Just a few of our goals this year. Of course, one of the top goals is to maintain financial self-sufficiency, and we've been proud to do that since the airport has been owned by both communities in the late 80s. So that's our goal every year, and Jason has been able to do that again this year for us. We plan for current and fiscal and future operational and capital expenditures, and that once again is addressed in this budget, and we're successful in doing that. And to provide resources to be the best GA airport in the country. That's really all of our goal every year. Next slide, please. Here's sort of a budget overview of kind of procedural steps that we've taken. Staff began early this year preparing the budget internally. We went to the board of directors in the beginning of the year, and the board workshopped the agenda and passed the agenda in March. And then here we come before you in April. Actually, the city of Prospect Heights went first this year. It's always kind of a back and forth. And they passed it unanimously last week. And then thank you for considering it tonight for approval. You know, per IGA, the airport board only can recommend the budget to both communities, and then the both communities have to approve the budget. I'm going to invite Jason up here to kind of go through some financial highlights of the budget.
Hello. First off, before I get started, I want to say thank you to the Village of Wheeling Finance Director, Michael Monchain, for going over and reviewing the budget for any additional questions that any trustees had. So the highlights of the budget in front of you, the FY21 total budgeted revenues are just over $4.5 million. That is a small reduction from last year's budget. For the first time in the municipal ownership of the airport, we're taking over hangars 5 and 6. A long-term tenant decided not to renew their term for the additional 5 years. So we're working with the current tenants in that hangar to get them to stay and also expand upon possible new tenants. So we budgeted pretty conservative on the revenues for that hangar. Operating expenses were budgeted to be just over $3.4 million. That's 75.5% of our budgeted revenues, and a small increase of 2.6. The airport business plan requires that we maintain an unrestricted net balance equal to 3 months of the budgeted operating expenses. That would be $865,975 for the year. The cash flow shows an estimated $3.5 million in unrestricted cash on April 30th, 2020. Moving on to some of the reserve funds. The projected starting balance for the sewer reserve fund was just over $500,000 with an ending balance of $405,000. We are proposing in this budget to use $210,000 from that reserve fund to be used towards the sewer and water main portions of the U.S. Customs facility. The The Building and Land Reserve Fund was projected to start just under $800,000 for the year, with an ending balance of $281,000. That, in the budget, utilizes some monies for the new U.S. Customs facility, and then monies to pay off a debt service for the Southwest T hangars. The vehicle with the goal in mind to reduce debt as much as possible for the U.S. Customs facility. The Vehicle and Equipment Reserve Fund was projected to start in balance of $974,000 with an estimated $544,000 at the end of the year. This budget does have the purchase of a new airport snow blower for snow operations. The current piece of equipment is from 1990, and it's coming towards the end of its useful life. There's a 280 to 300 day lead time on that. So, also new this year is a capital repair and demolition fund. As we potentially receive some of these aging buildings back, we would like to start setting monies aside to not impact potential operating, but have money to set aside for potential capital repairs or demolition if needed on the hangar on a case-by-case basis. Some of the major Capital A projects included in this budget are the continuation of the RCIP program, including construction, and the rehabilitation of airfield lighting. On that note, I'm going to turn it back over to Jamie.
Thank you, Jason. Just kind of the last slide here. I just wanted to wrap up with acknowledging the COVID situation that we're all dealing with. Airports are no exception. We are constantly evaluating operations, and with the downturn in operations goes the downturn of fuel flowage, which also impacts our revenues. So it's a constant evaluation of revenues and expenses with us, and I assure you that we're going to continue to do that going forward. We're kind of looking at things quarter by quarter right now. Our financial quarter is just starting, so that's our plan going forward. With that, sir, one more note, the bottom bullet there, it looks like we will be the recipient of some CARES Act stimulus funds for airports. That could be in the form of money that could be used for operations. That's not typical of FAA and state dollars. Actually, these are just federal dollars. Typically, those are used for grants, infrastructure projects, but this will be able to be used for operations such as paying the bills, payroll, and so forth. So that's sort of a unique opportunity for us. Not sure on the specifics on when we will see that or how much, but we'll keep you posted. Sir, with that, we'll be ready to take any questions that you and the board may have.
Thank you, Mr. Abbott. Joe, you have something?
Yeah, Jamie, I'm just wondering how low has volume been lately in terms of flights in and out daily, this week versus, say, last year, this week in April?
Sure. Just to kind of give you a historical perspective, we're looking at last year versus this year in April. And April is especially hit kind of hard, probably 60 to 70% down in aircraft operations. Now, we're not quite sure yet how that's going to translate into fuel sales and so forth, which impacts our revenues. Those numbers are just starting to trickle in, and I don't know if Jason's gotten March's fuel flowage numbers yet, but as soon as those come in, we're really going to have an indication on this month, this May coming up, and then especially the quarter. So that's really going to tell the story for us. So they're coming in. We're fortunate or unfortunate to have our fiscal year hit on May 1st in the middle of the crisis. So it's a constant evaluation for us.
Thanks.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Trustee Vito. Trustee Kruger, and then Trustee Papantos.
Thank you, Mr. President. Director Abbott, thanks for coming out today.
Yes, ma'am.
Trustee Vito already covered my first question, which was how has the pandemic affected CEA over the past month, so we can skip that one. But I did want to know, how does CEA see the pandemic affecting your fiscal 2020 actuals and therefore this budget?
Yeah, 2020 actuals look to be pretty much on par. It's the pandemic hit far enough in March to not really affect the budget year in total. I can let Jason kind of step in and cover that. So I think 2020, the one that's wrapping up is going to be pretty good for us. We're going to have a surplus budget. And Jason, you want to chime in if you can, but we're really looking to this budget in front of you and how it's going to hit our proposed fiscal year 21. April, like I kind of mentioned, is already down in operations, which is going to translate into lower fuel sales, which is one of the two big revenue sources for us. And we're just going to have to monitor that really quickly. Those numbers should come in anytime now. So we expect April to be a pretty tough month. Now we'll see how the recovery looks and see if we can make that up later in the year. But that's something that we're kind of monitoring every week and every month, and then we'll take it quarter by quarter and adjust those. Yes, ma'am.
As I think every financial person or anybody responsible for finances is doing. Jason doesn't need to come up and further that. My last question was, does CEA anticipate the cancellation of many, if not all, of the conferences that was noted in that in this budget? I just rough shot added it up to over $50,000, and I don't know what conferences are being held now or in the future. So I'm just wondering if those will be some further cost savings for the airport.
Yes, ma'am. You are correct in that assumption that you made on your own, but there's already been at least 2 big conferences that have been canceled. We expect the rest of them through probably the month of July at least to be canceled. So that automatically saves time and, travel and conference expenses for us, on top of our just travel freeze that we've imposed on our employees. No travel for training and unnecessary travel on that part. So you're right. So right off the bat, there's going to be a lot of savings on the expenditure side just because things have been canceled or we're canceling them ourselves.
Fair enough. Thank you very much.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Trustee Kruger. Trustee Papantos?
Thank you. Just a few questions, and I've kind of gone over these with Jamie and Jason, so this isn't too much of a surprise. First of all, the new customs building. Pardon me?
I just wanted to, I need to figure out a way to confirm with the trustees that I saw them. So Trustee Vogel, I saw you. You'll be next.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I wanted to talk about the new customs building. If going through the numbers, it appears that it could be operating at a loss when you add in the debt service, the amount for the debt service. So where is the money going to come from so that we're not losing money on the customs? I believe it runs about 475 operations a year.
Yes, ma'am. That's been the average for the last several years, is about 450, 475 operations. We've been as high as 500 operations a year. So, yep, that's going to have to be closely monitored, how those operations affect the operational expenditures of U.S. Customs. One of the things that we did last year, actually, in last year's budget, is we increased fuel flowage on jet fuel by 0.25 cents, is that right? Last year was a penny and a half, and we 2.5 this year. So on top of our regular fuel flowage numbers, a fuel flowage is we get a little piece off of each gallon of fuel sold on the airport. So it's enough to cover operational. So there's kind of 2 expenses with customs: operational expenses, which pays for the customs officer and all the expenditures to operate the facility itself. And then you mentioned the debt on the new building that could be coming up this year. And Jason, it also covers that as well, the increase. That's going to be another evaluation next budget year as well, is does there need to be an increase in that fuel flowage to cover the debt on the facility? Along with that, we are going to use cash reserves when it comes to building the facility to cut down on the money we have to borrow. And just also keep in mind that this facility is one of those unfunded mandates, and we're not alone in the airport world when it comes to updating the facilities. All of the other regional airports around Chicago are in the same boat. We're all doing it at the same time. We're almost all also on the same progress. We're at about 30% plans. A couple airports are at 60%. One is actually starting construction. So we're all in this together, and it's just one of those things that's going to have to be further evaluated as we go through this fiscal year, and we evaluate expenditures and which projects need to be held off and which projects can go ahead. So it's all kind of that constant evaluation to see where the economy is going to go, and especially our airport finances.
I'm going to make the assumption that, and partly because I did listen to the last airport meeting.
Sure.
Because of the pandemic, the rates for the interest have dropped significantly for the loan.
We have,
And are we
yeah,
still
and we're,
working?
I'm sorry to interrupt.
Are we still working on getting the loan, or have you locked anything in at this point?
We're still working on it. We're talking with at least 2 banks on rates and so forth and terms. Kind of besides the customs facility, in a few weeks, you may see a refinance or actually an extension of a couple of loans that we have for at least 2 of our properties, sort of a, it's not called a refinance. We're not exactly doing that, but we're going to take care of those balloon payments that you know about with an extension, which we're getting a really good, I think we're getting a really good rate on that. So we're kind of taking advantage of, if you can, call it that, with the downturn in the economy and in these 2 situations.
And for people who don't realize it, when we talk about a customs facility and the 450 operations a year, which would mean theoretically 900 total operations, because what comes down is eventually going to go back up, out of 78,000 operations a year.
Roughly, yeah, just under 80.
I mean, when we look at the total numbers, it's a pretty expensive venture for a fairly low expense. And that's why I do bring this up so often.
Sure.
I mean, it's something I think we have to watch. We talk about it being an unfunded mandate. My question is always, and I don't really expect an answer to it,
Sure.
is, well, what would happen if we didn't have a customs facility?
Yeah,
You know, those
it's
450 flights would have to go someplace else, right?
right. Yeah, it's one of those facilities that that users of the facilities expect at a GA airport, especially a reliever airport like Chicago Executive. Us, DuPage, Waukegan, Gary, they all offer it. And the way we try to cover those expenses is, last year we raised the actual user fee to use the system. So we raised those rates. So it's not free to the user. They definitely get a hefty bill for using the facility. And so we raised the rates for the first time in a while. And it's not to say that we won't look at those rates again and raise those on the customer. So if you don't use it, you're not necessarily paying for the service, but if you're using it, you're definitely getting a bill for what it costs us to operate that.
Well, and that's, I think my point is that I want to make sure that the people who are using it are paying for it and not punishing those who don't use it, or at
Understood.
least charging those who don't use it.
Good point.
And then the second item I had, and I actually have 3 and you only knew about 2, sorry about that. I can't figure out, there was a substantial increase in the board compensation and the community reimbursement on the budget. And this is spelled out in the IGA, so I'm not sure why we're increasing something that the owners of the airport, Prospect Heights and Wheeling, would have to change the IGA for.
Yeah, that was something that me and Jason and staff built into the budget. Not really in anticipation of an IGA change, but in the case that there was one. We built in a couple other things in the budget. Kind of a wish list that I had was to update our primary guiding documents, which is kind of our rule book on how we operate the airport. That kind of project is one of the first ones that's going to be kind of nixed if our financial situation doesn't improve next quarter. So there are projects like that and items that we built into the budget in anticipation, what if the IGA was revisited. This wasn't at the request of any board members, airport board members or anything else. It's just a planning effort by staff. And just because, and just a reminder, just because it's in the budget, it definitely does not get spent. especially since the IGA is one of those documents that must be approved, evaluated, and approved by both communities, Wheeling and Prospect Heights. So,
Well, I'd like to rephrase that. I think
Sure.
the IGA is one of those documents that must be written by the owners of the airport. I mean,
Written
we're
and
kind of
approved.
the ones who spell it out, not,
You are-
the
you
other
are
way
right.
around.
Yep, that is correct.
And then, you mentioned briefly the RSIP program, and I just want to point out that that is not everybody knows all the acronyms.
Sure.
That's the Residential Sound Insulation Program. I believe last Wednesday, it was mentioned that there may be a grant out there to cover the local share.
You know, I posed the question to the FAA, and I haven't received an answer just yet, but part of the stimulus program for the COVID situation, it includes matching the local share for AIP projects, meaning if we were to get a taxiway or other infrastructure project, normally the local share of that would be 10% airport. Normally it's 90% federal, 5% state, 5% airport. So even $1 million project is a pretty significant savings to us, but we still have to share that 5%. Part of the stimulus program is if you're awarded an AIP project, your local share is covered. So essentially, it's a 100% free project to the airport. So of course, we're evaluating our capital program and working with the state, because the state awards those types of programs, and making sure that we could take advantage of that for this year. Noise programs are a little bit different because it's a different pot of money. Noise money is kind of a different pot than AIP, which comes out of a trust fund. So, but I've posed the question, but there is maybe a possibility that the RSIP program also gets 100% funded, at least for this year. So I'll get back to you on that.
My point on this is going down to the fact that if there is some grant money or extra money, can we in some way, shape, or form accelerate the program? You know, if the money's out there, I don't want to slow it down. I don't want to come to a point and say, we would have done this, but COVID hit and we don't have quite as much money, or we need it for something else. So I just want to make sure that the RSIP program doesn't fall through the cracks.
Good point. Yep, we'll make sure we stay on that.
Thank you. That's all I had.
Thank you, Trustee Papantos. Trustee Vogel?
Thank you. Director Abbott, a couple of quick questions.
Yes, sir.
One, has any of this pandemic affected the grants or the funds that we're going to receive for the master plan expenses?
Actually, grants are going pretty smoothly. The reimbursement for the master plan is on our TIPS program, and the TIPS, just to remind everyone, is our 5-year capital plan. And any
Right.
project that you want awarded has to be on that 5-year TIPS. So master plan expenses are on that TIPS program. So this is where I'm going to be working with the state of Illinois and our consultants to pursue projects related to the master plan, and then any chance to get a project that triggers reimbursement for the monies that we spend on the master plan. So working with the state and the consultant on that.
Okay. You mentioned that our conference expenses, our travel expenses are going to be down for the airport itself, but in the same breath, will not our revenues be down due to conferences and travel that's being canceled throughout the Chicagoland area? So isn't that kind of going to be offset by less fees that we're going to receive for people coming in? We're saving going out, but aren't we going to see an offset of that with revenues?
Yes, sir. Yeah, we're anticipating a loss of fuel flowage, which kind of is directly related to your question, I think, is people coming into the airport, purchasing fuel, which directly affects our revenues. So that's something that we're going to have to keep a close eye on. We're predicting a certain percentage of a loss of fuel revenue, and it's just going to have to be a monthly evaluation of how that comes in.
I know a couple of years ago we had the BMW was a big, incoming revenue example. Was there anything coming up this summer?
Actually, the BMW, yep, I'm sorry to cut you off.
The BMW has been canceled for now or postponed.
Right.
I'm not sure which, but So all of those monies are going to go away. The other question I have, do we see and this is kind of a blue sky question, are we going to have some non-renewal of leases due to this from some of the corporations in the area? Or do you think we're pretty safe there?
You know, we're fortunate that most of our long-term leases go out at least until now, 2025, I think is the next one comes due. So we're fortunate that our other big revenue stream is long-term leases. So we're good for a few years on that. Jason mentioned the Hangar 5 and 6 situation where one of the tenants gave that back to us. But it looks like we will just end up getting those tenants. They'll become ours instead of the FBOs. So we're hoping that the revenues on that play out to where they were before.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Trustee Vogel. Nothing, Trustee Rufato or Lang?
I have a comment.
Trustee Lang.
Thank you. So we talked about the customs facility earlier, and, let it be known that if we, as the airport board and the staff, I'm sure, could avoid building that building, we would do it. And I think, Jamie, you're still looking at ways to try to, because of this pandemic that's happening, trying to push back a little bit. We may not have to build this year. We, if at all possible, we may not have to build it all, but chances are, if we're building it, I want to say at least we're doing it the right way. Jason really sharpened his pencil and moved some money around. Got some guidance from Michael Monashane, thank him as well, just to, do this right, not borrow a lot of money, utilize funds that we had on the airport itself or in previous budgets for other projects. And so it's going to be a burden, but it's going to be less of a burden because we're not borrowing as much money and consolidating the loan. So thank you, guys. I appreciate Jason and Jamie as well for your work on this.
Thank you, Director.
Are there no other questions or comments about the budget? Raise your hands, you guys, if you have something. If there are no other questions, I do have a question that I would like to clarify.
Sure.
I'm going to indulge myself here. I'm sorry, I thought I saw somebody raise their hand. The question of the increase on the stipend, 250 to 350, that's Mr. Farrell, I'm going to put you on the spot here. That's a portion, that's in the IGA, correct?
That's correct. That is a specific section of the IGA. The IGA would have to be amended in order to implement a raise for.
And the amount is in the IGA. It's not like it just says there will be a stipend.
The amount is directly in the IGA.
So just because it's in the budget does not mean it's going to happen?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
That being clarified for my own good and anybody who might still be watching, I need a motion to approve as is unless anybody would like to make an amendment.
So moved.
Thank you, Trustee Rufato. Second?
Second.
Second, Trustee Lang. Roll call, please.
Trustee Lang?
Yes.
Trustee Vito?
Yes.
Trustee Vogel?
Yes.
Trustee Krueger?
Yes.
Trustee Papantos?
Yes.
Trustee Rufato?
Yes.
President Horker?
Yes.
Thank you very much. Be safe.
Thank you, sir. Be careful. Clerk Simpson, B.
13B, ordinance granting major site plan approval to construct and modify detention basins for 435 Wheeling Road and 571 Wheeling Road, Builders Asphalt, docket number PC 20-1.
Mr. Svandelis.
Thank you. While the petitioner comes to the podium, I will give a brief overview, which is that this is a request for a major site plan approval. In brief, Builders Asphalt will be occupying the property to the north of their existing facility, raise the existing structures on the affected address, and in short, swap detention areas from their existing detention to the new property, which will allow for a better flow of operations at their site, including hopefully eliminate some of the traffic on Wheeling Road that is stacked because the new arrangement will allow for some on-site truck stacking and, of course, some additional asphalt storage bins and such. This did receive unanimous PC Plan Commission approval and is before you tonight for a major site plan approval.
Well, the problem is you're too successful.
Thank you. Thank you.
I'm sorry, I cut you off, please.
Tim Winter with Powell Group. I think the village manager explained it perfectly what we're doing. We wish we could have done this 4 years ago when we came here. It just, unfortunately, the timing of trying to acquire the property wasn't working. The main purpose is we are able to gain the extra yard space, which still is tight as when I came here 4 years ago. An ideal space is 10 acres. This was 7 acres when we got this. So this gives us a little extra space. We would push all the detention on the new property acquiring. It also gives us a lot more stacking of our trucks that come in to pick up the asphalt. I think it's going to allow 15 to 20 additional trucks to be parked on our property instead of Wheeling Road during the busy times, which does happen at times. That is the main purpose of this, is just trying to get more inflow onto our property and be able to get all our operations just on our property. I'm here to answer any questions.
So I'm going to go first. So the new entrance is going to be on the south side?
No, north side. We're just pushing it north. So the existing one is, if you look right where the blue and orange line is on the screen there, it's just to the south of there, just to the right. Our new entrance is going to go all the way to where the blue is, where it's kind of the triangle point, all the way to the left.
Ah, okay.
So it's going to be a lot more additional.
I missed that entrance.
Yeah, so that's where
my drawings are really tiny. Okay, because I was trying to figure out where you were going to get 15 extra trucks. I mean, I see that you're going to do extra material bins on the east side there.
Yeah.
But, all right. Now I'm sorry. Now I'll open it up to questions for if anybody else has something. Can I see the people, please, Mr. Luca? There we go. Trustee Papantos first, and then Trustee Rufato. And if anybody else has something, just wave and I'll try to see you. Trustee Papantos.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Winter. Will this project require MWRD permitting because of the move on the detention and/or IDOT permitting because of driveways and entrances and exit? And if so, will that cause a delay at all?
It will require MWRD permits, and we have received those. We actually received them last week. So that's good. We do not need any IDOT permits because Wheeling is a village road.
That's fantastic. And then, is it village or is it county? I'm sorry, never mind.
Village, I
believe. Village, thank you. And then what's our time frame on this project?
It's always a key question right now.
I always ask.
Our plan was to try to do this. We just didn't get started this to try to get it done right at this time. It just was a delay with MWRD, slowing us down a little bit. So probably either in the fall when we slow down, or it might be again next spring. As this is our busy time, there is a phasing of having to keep the detention and the existing detention operation, which requires a lot of dirt movement. So we do not want to impact our current dirt operation, and we cannot do it in the middle of winter as ground is frozen. So it's either the fall or spring. We already missed this window right now. So it's either fall or next spring.
Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Papantos. Trustee Rufato, and then Trustee Vogel, did you want to say something?
Thank you, Mr. President. Just a real quick question.
Okay, Phil.
In turning down Pete's Perfection, that was a truck repair site. Is there any remediation that's going to be needed on the property?
We are still finishing up our environmental phase 1 report. So right now the preliminary reports say no. As it is an industrial commercial parcel, the requirements are a little less that is required than if it was a residential, but we don't have the final answer right now. We'll find out once I get the report, which hopefully in the next 2 weeks. Getting some information from IEPA has been a little slow recently.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Rufato. Trustee Kruger?
Thank you, Mr. President. Question for the petitioner. I'm no engineer and I don't know how to read topography, but water tends to want to go where water wants to go. How is it going to know to go north now instead of where it was all these years?
Can you go back to the original screen?
Luca, if you would.
I'll do my best to explain. So if we're looking at this on the right side, on the orange side, right of the broken aggregate piles and the recycler, there's an existing storm sewer that drains that pond that's at the, what would that be? That's the southeast corner, the upper left, or upper right, sorry. And it drains that out to Wheeling Road. There's a restrictor that's near Wheeling Road. What we're gonna do is block, I believe we're gonna block that or minimize that orifice to allow the water to go out and let the water backflow with a pipe that will connect under along the east side, which is the top side under all the aggregate pins, is big 60-inch storm sewer pipes that hold detention, connected to that, and then it's gonna force its way back to the pond that's on the north on Pete's Perfection.
Gravity?
Gravity, yeah. I mean, there's going to be some water that are going to be standing in the pipes in some areas. But the pressure of the force of all that water, once it has the big rain events, is going to push it back in there. It's all going to be stored in the site before it leaves the property.
Got it. Great, thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Kruger. So all of the underground storage stays?
Yes.
Excellent. Well, it'd be kind of silly to take it out, wouldn't it? Any other questions? If there are no other questions or comments, I would be looking for a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
Motion, Trustee Kruger. Trustee Rufato, was that you trying to waive, or were you just adjusting?
No, Trustee Papantos.
Trustee Papantos, second, okay. Roll call, please.
Trustee Lang?
Yes.
Trustee Vito?
Yes.
Trustee Vogel?
Yes.
Trustee Kruger?
Yes?
Trustee Papantos?
Yes.
Trustee Rufato?
Yes.
President Horker?
Yes, congratulations.
Thank you. Please be healthy.
Uh-oh. Never mind.
You want mine?
Item C, resolution accepting a bid and approving a contract in the amount of $482,840 with D&M Painting Corporation for rehabilitation and paint recoating of elevated tank 5.
Mr. Spondilis.
Thank you. If it's okay, while we are seeking approval on two separate items, items C and D, I'd like to explain them both as they kind of go hand in hand. This project is, as the title indicates, a recoating, which is different than a simple repaint. Obviously, these tanks hold our potable drinking water, so the process is much more invasive than simply painting our towers. As one of our most important assets, we inspect the towers every 5 years, which requires us to drain them, have experts go inside of them, analyze the coatings that exist for corrosion, and then provide a report. Based on those reports, we then bring the board these types of contracts where a company will come in and strip the existing coatings. Of course, it's all, this is what you see, the shroud over the tanks. That's what this is. It's inside and outside. It happens every 17 to 24 years, depending on the condition of the tank or the tower. And this tank has been recommended for recoating. The consultant, which is Dixon, which is item D, is required because, of course, we don't have the expertise to perform this kind of analysis. They also stay on site throughout the project and effectively manage the process, but more importantly, they are the eyes and ears that allow us to make sure that we are complying with IEPA standards. So with that, I hope that I can answer any questions for item C before moving on to item D.
Questions or comments from the board?
Mary Beth.
Was that a Trustee Papantos? Or were you
No.
just adjusting your camera? Okey doke.
I was turning on the mic.
I see no activity, so I'm going to ask for a motion for approval on item C.
So moved.
Motion trustee Papantos, second.
Second.
Trustee Vito. Roll call.
Trustee Lang?
Yes.
Trustee Vito?
Yes.
Trustee Vogel?
Yes.
Trustee Krueger?
Yes.
Trustee Papantos?
Yes.
Trustee Rafato?
Yes.
President Horker?
Yes.
Thank you.
And that leads us to D.
Item D, resolution accepting a proposal from Dixon Engineering for engineering services relative to the rehabilitation and painting, recoating of elevated tank 5 in the amount of $41,100.
Mr. Spondilis, you did have an explanation for this. Does anybody need to hear more?
If I may, I'd just like to add that Dixon also handled the bidding of the project, so this was a publicly bid project, paying prevailing wage. Just want to make sure that that was clear.
Yeah, could you explain, there was a question about the bid. Could you just explain?
I mean, really nothing more than that. It was publicly bid. The question that was before us was that the contractor is not an Illinois-based contractor. There are very few Illinois-based recoating companies. Dixon has pre-qualified this company, whose name, of course, escapes me, D&M Painting, meaning that they have worked together in the past. There is, again, because this is all based on IEPA regulations, you have to qualify in order to participate in these projects. So because there's an existing relationship, they are pre-qualified. That is an advantage to the Village of Wheeling. But again, there was a publicly bid, this is a publicly bid project.
It all went through the standard
and
acceptable procedures.
Exactly correct. Yes.
Thank you. So with that being said, looking for a motion to approve.
So moved.
Give the motion to trustee Vogel, second to trustee Papantos. Roll call, please.
Trustee Lang?
Yes.
Trustee Vito?
Yes.
Trustee Vogel?
Yes.
Trustee Krueger?
Yes.
Trustee Papantos?
Yes.
Trustee Rafato?
Yes.
President Horker?
Yes.
Thank you.
Item E.
Item E, ordinance amending the Wheeling Municipal Code Title 14, Taxes, Business Regulations, and Licenses, Section 4.08.140, Fees by Classification, and Title 8, Public Peace and Safety, Section .22.050A, Video Gaming, in order to waive certain licensing fees.
Mr. Spondilis.
It's easy, I'm the only one here. Recognizing the hardships that our current pandemic has brought to the business community, and at the direction of the village president and board of trustees, staff is proposing an ordinance that is before you this evening that does effectively three things. It extends the current license year by 1 month, so instead of expiring on April 30th, it expires on May 31st in order to give businesses more time to complete the renewal process. Second, it waives all business and liquor license fees for the upcoming license year. And third, it reduces the video gaming license fees for the coming year by 1 month. That is because at the onset of this pandemic, the board, recognizing the need, extended the license year and also granted a 30-day waiver, which effectively then reduces the payment for the following year by 1 month. So again, it extends the license year, it waives all business and liquor license fees, and we believe that this is a very important and necessary tool that the village can give to the business community. We are limited in what we can do, and again, at the direction of the president and board of trustees, staff wanted to codify what had been previously discussed so that there is formal approval of a letter that has been sent. So businesses should be receiving this letter very shortly.
I did receive an email from someone today asking if the village was going to do anything like this, and I didn't respond because I figured tonight we would let them know.
We have drafted a press release that will go out tomorrow morning.
Excellent. Questions or comments from the trustees? Trustee Papantos?
Thank you. Then we will see our normal yearly license renewal, which we typically would see the last meeting in April during the last meeting in May.
Correct.
Okay. And you did say that there will be a press release tomorrow so that people are aware of this. Do we know of any other communities doing anything?
The press release is drafted and will be released in the morning. There are a couple of communities that have talked about it and a couple that have instituted versions of their own. This, again, in consultation with the president and all of you, seem to make the most sense for how we can most effectively help the small and large businesses of our community.
And what about new businesses coming in if somebody decides to come in next September?
Excellent question. We thought it only fair that if a business is currently permitted for construction, that they would fall into the category of the waiver. If there is a brand-new business that has not yet approached the village, it seemed only fair then that they would have to pay just as they would separate and apart from the pandemic.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Papantos. Anyone else? That being said, I do want to make a little statement. This is a oh, sorry. So this is an action that affects all of the businesses in town equally. It's a general, what is it, a general?
It's, it has general applicability.
General
to all businesses now.
applicability.
Yep.
And as such, it doesn't affect anyone more than the other, apart from their licensing fees and their liquor license fees. As such, it would probably be permissible, as I understand it, for me to vote on this. However, since it's better safe than sorry, I will be abstaining from this because I do have a business in town, and so do several of my family members, and we're just going to keep it more than an arm's length away, so I'll be abstaining. Having gone through all of that, do I see a motion for approval?
So moved.
Second.
Motion, Trustee Rufato, and I saw Trustee Lang do the second. Roll call, please.
Trustee Lang?
Yes.
Trustee Vito?
Yes.
Trustee Vogel? Trustee Vogel?
Nod.
Yeah,
There
okay.
you go, thank you.
Trustee Kruger?
Yes.
Trustee Papantos?
Yes.
Trustee Rufato?
Yes.
President Horker?
I will be abstaining, thank you. Oh, the pandemic. I hope everyone's doing well. I know it's a scary time. Mr. Spondilis, we have some C-19 effects on our 4th of July.
Yes, in an abundance of caution and recognizing that the expectation of the community would be to get as far away from the peak of this pandemic as possible, we have taken the proactive measures of postponing our Rock and Run the Runway, which was scheduled for June 27th of this year, and we have rescheduled the event for Saturday, August 22nd. Our website and the Rock and Run website have already been updated. Of course, this is done in cooperation with the airport and with the City of Prospect Heights. We did meet and discuss the idea of postponing. Everyone was in agreement that this seemed to be the best option for the communities. And again, this comes with the caveat that the governor doesn't decree any sort of general "you shall not meet in numbers larger than 100 for the rest of the summer." But we did think that August 22nd was as far enough away from the peak and at the end of summer before all of school activities hopefully begin, that this was our best opportunity to having a successful event. So that action has been taken, and we will have a press release on that later in the week so as not to overshadow our more important business and liquor license fee waivers.
There we go. I need to make a few statements. First of all, to the general public, and probably the inconsiderate ones who are probably not watching anyway, masks. Masks are not for the protection of the people who are wearing them. They're for the protection of the people around you, okay? Just because you're not in the at-risk portion of the population does not mean that you don't have to wear it. The idea is that you're going to protect your peers, your friends. We need to be considerate of the people around us. We're actually living in a very interesting time right now. We're living at a point in time that is going to echo forward in history, both in our economy and our behavior. It's going to be affecting us for years. It's going to be affecting our population for generations. There are literally hundreds and thousands of people dying throughout the country. And this is something that our children and grandchildren are probably going to study in school. And they're probably going to ask us about this. And right now, we get to decide what kind of a story we're going to tell them. Our behavior right now is how we are going to explain this to the next generation. And we get to decide. Are we going to say that everybody gave a little bit, everybody was a little considerate? You know, we were careful. We didn't just, run around and spread this. We all just stayed home. Yeah, we had to stay home with our loved ones. That's why we live with them, even after 2-3 weeks. And yes, it was annoying, and yes, it was a little scary, but we did it, and we slowed the spread, and that's what we did. Everybody did a little bit, and you did your part, and that can be the story that you tell about your contribution to get through this. And conversely, you can also say that it was no big deal. We did everything we wanted to. Everybody made a big deal about it. It was really nothing. But yeah, I did lose a lot of aunts and uncles and friends with asthma. And it might have been because you ran around with everybody and didn't pay attention and were thoughtless about it. But this is your time to decide exactly the story that you're going to be telling your children and your grandchildren. It's not a lot that you have to do. It's just to be a little conscientious. And even if you are in the not at-risk portion of the population, you probably know people that are. And this is what your behavior modification is about. This is why you wear a mask, so that you don't contaminate other people. It's not hard, it's just being a little considerate. It's just time to sort of grow up as a society or as a nation and just do the right thing for a little while just because you're supposed to. I have people calling and asking me, am I going to mandate masks? Do I really have to mandate masks? Do I really have to tell you, hey, don't go out and catch something that's going to kill grandma? Can you just do it? And if we mandate something, how am I going to enforce it? Is the cop going to give you a ticket for 10, 15, 20, $100? Do we have to be the bad guy? Can't you just do what you're supposed to? It's not magic. It's pretty straightforward. Oh, one person can't make that much of a difference. It was just one thing, one time. You know, I'll bet it was one person that got it first. I'll bet one person does make a difference. Don't spread it around. Stay home. Learn the guitar. Learn basket weaving. We've got the internet, right? It's not just a scolding. There's a lot of you who are doing the right thing, and our village is actually doing pretty well. I mean, we have special thanks to the front line. We have police officers who are doing their job every day, face-to-face with the public. Every day, at risk. Nobody's shooting at them. It's not quite that quick and simple. But this is a dangerous situation for a lot of people. We have our fire department, and I saw them at work. I saw them at a stop in the white suit and the mask and the one person going to the house. And can the subject come out on their own accord? so that there's no cross-contamination, so that the fireman doesn't have to go into the house where there might be contamination? And do you want another stranger in your house because you don't know what's going on with him? This is just a question of being responsible and thinking about what you do for a little bit of time. Just grow up a little bit, be responsible for your actions, and you get to decide what the story is. Your point, your part in history. You get to decide right now what you tell your children you did, what you tell your grandchildren you did, even just a little bit. Thank you for the policemen. Thank you for the firemen. You're doing a great job. And that's all I have. I see Trustee Lang wants to say something. Who else? Trustee Papantos. So Trustee Lang, please.
Well, thank you. I wanted to give my condolences to the family and friends of Bill Hine. We lost a great Wheeling citizen this past week, and someone who really had Wheeling in his heart. And it was didn't always agree with his projects, but that didn't matter. He worked for this village. He worked with this village for a long time, for most of his life. His mom and dad were huge in this village as well. It's just a big loss and very sad. But I want to say I was fortunate to be his friend and fortunate to be on the board with him at the same time, and I wish his family well. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Lang. Trustee Papantos?
Thank you. I just want to remind everybody that you can still do your census. I seem to remember about 10 years ago when we did the census back then, there were big signs at the corner of Milwaukee and Dundee at the fountain, having 6 feet apart. Talked to my neighbors yesterday. They didn't know what the census was. So I think we need to try to remind people to go out there, do the census. If we need to put signs up in different languages to get the community to respond, that would be great. This does affect us. I think we're going to need the most accurate count that we can possibly get right now. So please, everybody, I'm sure we've all done ours, but talk to your neighbors. Let's all get the census done. Well, for me, because I'm home alone, it only took about 5 minutes, but I don't think it could take anybody more than 5 or 10 minutes to do. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Papantos. Anyone else? If there are no other concerns or comments, we do have in front of you the bills for April 2nd through April 15th of 2020. If there are no questions or comments, I need a motion for their approval.
So moved.
Motion, Trustee Papantos. Second, who was that, please, Waive?
Aye.
Trustee Lang. Roll call, please.
Trustee Lang?
Yes.
Trustee Vito?
Yes.
Trustee Vogel?
Yes.
Trustee Kruger?
Yes.
Trustee Papantos?
Yes.
Trustee Rafato?
Yes.
President Horker?
Yes, we have no executive session tonight, so that means it's time to adjourn. Motion for someone, from someone?
So moved.
Motion, Trustee Kruger. Second.
Second.
Trustee Rafato. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Meeting adjourned. Stay home.